The first drop of rain fell on the cold marble grave just as Ethan knelt down, his hands trembling, his chest tight like it had been for years. He had come here dozens of times before, but that morning felt different, heavier, quieter, as if the earth itself was holding its breath. That was when he sensed it. Someone was standing behind him. When he turned, a woman he had never seen before was looking at his father's grave with the same pain written on her face that lived permanently in his own heart. He didn't know it yet, but that moment was about to shatter everything he believed about his past, his father, and himself. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when people least expect them, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts around the world. Ethan Miller had not planned to become a single father at 29. Life had pushed him there with no warning and no mercy. 3 years earlier, his wife had passed away suddenly, leaving him alone with their 6-year-old daughter, Lily, and a mountain of responsibilities he never felt ready to carry. Every morning began before sunrise, packing lunches, tying shoelaces, wiping sleepy eyes, and forcing a smile he no longer felt. Every night ended with exhaustion, bills spread across the table, and the same crushing thought that he was failing at everything, fatherhood, work, and life itself. His own father, Robert Miller, had been his anchor growing up. A quiet man with rough hands and kind eyes, Robert believed in responsibility, honesty, and standing tall even when the world bent you down. When Robert died 5 years earlier, Ethan felt like the last solid pillar in his life had collapsed. Now, whenever the weight became unbearable, Ethan came to the grave, hoping that somehow, in the silence, he could still feel his father near. The woman standing there that morning didn't look like a stranger passing by. She was in her late 40s, dressed simply, her hair pulled back, her eyes red as if she had cried long before the rain began. She held a small bouquet of white flowers, and the way her hands shook mirrored Ethan's own. For a moment, neither of them moved. The rain grew heavier, soaking the ground, blurring the names etched in stone. Ethan felt something stir inside him, confusion, curiosity, and an unexpected sense of familiarity. He noticed the way she looked at the grave, not as someone visiting out of respect, but as someone mourning something deeply personal. It unsettled him. His father had lived a simple life, or so Ethan believed. There were no secrets, no shadows. At least, that was what he told himself. Over the next few weeks, Ethan saw the woman again. Always at the same grave. Always quiet. Always gone before he could gather the courage to ask who she was. Each time, his thoughts followed him home, lingering as he cooked dinner for Lily, as he helped her with homework, as he lay awake at night staring at the ceiling. A strange unease crept into his heart, the feeling that there was something important he didn't know, something that had been buried not just in the ground, but in the past. Life, meanwhile, showed no mercy. Ethan's job at the warehouse was cutting hours, and the bills were piling up faster than he could manage. Lily needed new school supplies, the rent was overdue, and the exhaustion was turning into quiet despair. Some days, he questioned whether he was strong enough to keep going. The promise he had made to his wife, to give their daughter a good life, felt harder to keep with each passing day. One afternoon, after another exhausting shift, Ethan returned to the cemetery. The sky was clear this time, the sun casting long shadows between the rows of graves. The woman was there again. This time, she didn't leave. She stood still, as if waiting. Ethan felt his heart pound as he approached, a strange mix of fear and urgency pushing him forward. What she revealed that day would change everything Ethan thought he knew. The woman's name was Margaret Collins, and her connection to Robert Miller was something Ethan never imagined. Decades ago, before Ethan was even born, Margaret and Robert had been young, deeply connected, and full of dreams. Life, however, had taken them in different directions. Circumstances, choices, and sacrifices had pulled them apart, leaving behind unfinished chapters and unspoken truths. Margaret had carried those truths silently for years, believing it was better that way. But the truth had a way of resurfacing, no matter how deeply it was buried. Margaret revealed that Robert had not only been a father to Ethan. He had been a quiet guardian to someone else as well, someone he supported anonymously for years, someone whose life he had helped rebuild after devastating loss. That someone was Margaret. When she had been at her lowest, alone and struggling, Robert had stepped in, not seeking recognition, not expecting gratitude. He had helped her find stability, dignity, and hope again, all while keeping it hidden from his own family. Ethan felt his chest tighten as the image of his father shifted in his mind, not diminishing, but expanding. The man he thought he knew suddenly became even greater, more complex, more human. The strength his father had shown was deeper than he ever realized. The kindness he had been taught as a child now carried a weight and meaning that brought tears to his eyes. But Margaret's secret didn't end there. Robert had left something behind. Not money or property, but something far more powerful, a letter addressed to Ethan, entrusted to Margaret with strict instructions to give it only when the time was right. Margaret had wrestled with that responsibility for years, waiting for a moment she couldn't explain. Standing at the grave, watching Ethan struggle silently, she knew that moment had come. The letter was filled with words Ethan had longed to hear. His father spoke of pride, of faith in Ethan's strength, and of the belief that even when life breaks you down, love can rebuild you piece by piece. Robert wrote about mistakes, about regrets, and about the importance of compassion, not just for others, but for oneself. He reminded Ethan that being a good father didn't mean being perfect, only present. Ethan broke that day. Not in weakness, but in release. Years of suppressed grief poured out, carried away by the wind rustling through the trees. For the first time since his wife's death, he felt something shift inside him. The weight didn't disappear, but it felt lighter, shared, understood, and honored. In the weeks that followed, life began to change in small but meaningful ways. Ethan found renewed strength in caring for Lily, more patience, more warmth. He applied for a better position at work, fueled by a confidence he hadn't felt in years. Margaret remained a quiet presence in their lives, not replacing anyone, not forcing her way in, but offering support rooted in genuine care. Ethan realized that his father's legacy wasn't just in the past, it was alive in the choices he made every day. In showing kindness when it was hard. In standing tall even when exhausted. In believing that broken things could still be beautiful. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive and reaching people who may feel as lost as Ethan once did. As time passed, Ethan returned to the grave, not just in grief, but in gratitude. He brought Lily with him, telling her stories about her grandfather, about quiet strength and unseen kindness. Standing there, he understood that some people change our lives not through grand gestures, but through the love they leave behind. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something from the heart. Please comment below with a red heart if this story made you feel something real, and tell us who this story reminded you of in your own life. Ethan walked away from the grave that day knowing one truth above all others: even in loss, even in silence, love never truly disappears. Sometimes, it waits, hidden, patient, until the moment it can change everything forever.